Have you ever sat through a holiday dinner, smiling politely but feeling like the invisible person at the table? Maybe everyone's laughing, chatting, catching up on stories you were never told, and you're just there, holding a plate of food and a handful of silence. If you've ever felt like your voice doesn't carry the same weight anymore, or worse, like it isn't being heard at all, you're not alone. Feeling left out by family is one of those quiet hurts. It doesn't always come with drama or arguments. Sometimes it's just the empty space where connection used to be. As we get older, our roles in the family shift. Our kids become adults. They have their own schedules, partners, children, responsibilities. And while that's natural, it can also be painful. Because even though life changes, our need to feel included, seen, and valued doesn't go away with age. In this video, we're going to have a heart-to-heart about how to respond when you feel left out by family. We'll talk about 5 things that can help open doors instead of closing them, and a few things to avoid saying if you want to keep the bridge strong instead of burning it. Let's begin with something simple, but powerful, what we choose to say in those moments of quiet disappointment. Here's the first thing to consider saying. I know everyone's busy, but I'd really love to be included next time. It sounds gentle, and that's the point. This sentence invites connection without accusation. When we feel hurt, it's natural to want to lash out. To say, "Why didn't anyone invite me?" Or, "You all forgot about me again." And while those feelings are valid, leading with hurt often makes people defensive. But if you approach it with honesty and softness, you open a door. You're letting your family know you're not angry, you're human, and you miss being part of their lives. You're not demanding a seat, you're just asking not to be forgotten. That's very different energy. I remember a woman in our senior discussion group, let's call her Evelyn, who shared how her daughter would host Sunday brunches and rarely invite her. For a long time, Evelyn stayed quiet. She didn't want to be the needy mom. But it hurt. Eventually, she said, "I'd love to help out with the next brunch, even if it's just folding napkins. I miss those mornings." Her daughter's eyes welled up, not because she was ashamed, but because she hadn't realized how much it meant to her mom. The next Sunday, Evelyn had a seat at the table and a bowl of her famous blueberry muffins right in the middle of it. Now, let's talk about what not to say in that moment. One thing to avoid is, "Fine, I guess I'm not important anymore." It's tempting, I know. When we feel excluded, those words feel like a shield. But really, they're a wall. They don't encourage your family to reach back. They push them away. Even if there's truth in how you feel, sarcasm and guilt rarely get the response we're hoping for. And here's the truth. Sometimes it's not that you're unimportant. It's that your family truly didn't realize you wanted to be involved. It may sound hard to believe, but people, especially younger adults, often assume silence means contentment. Another thing you might consider saying is this: "It felt hard not being included, and I wanted to be honest about that." That's a big one. Vulnerable? Yes, but incredibly powerful. It's not an attack. It's not a guilt trip. It's truth. And when truth is spoken calmly, without blame, it allows your family to reflect instead of react. We tend to forget that communication isn't just about words. It's about tone, timing, and intention. If your intention is to be heard and to heal, lead with your heart, not your wounds. I once knew a man named Carl who shared that every year, his son would go on a big family vacation with his in-laws. And Carl was never invited. He spent 2 years holding it in, bitterly scrolling through their photos online. One day, instead of lashing out, he wrote his son a note that said, "I know this may not be something you considered, but I'd love to be part of your family traditions. Even once. Let me know if there's room for me sometime." A few months later, he was invited to their Thanksgiving trip. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start. Sometimes that's all we need, a start. A tiny moment of courage that says, "I still want to be part of your world. Can you make a little space for me?" So now that we've explored a couple of ways to speak from a place of love rather than pain, let's keep going. Because feeling left out doesn't have to be the end of the story. Now that we've opened the door with honesty and softness, let's keep walking through it. Because once you've expressed that feeling of being left out, the next step is navigating how to stay connected in a way that respects both your needs and theirs. You've probably heard the phrase, pick your battles, and that's important. But even more powerful is pick your moments. Timing matters. And sometimes, saying nothing in the heat of the moment gives you the space to say something meaningful later. So let's talk about another phrase that can really help strengthen your family relationships when you're feeling excluded. Is there something I've done that's made you pull away? That takes courage. But it also shows humility. It's not blaming. It's not shaming. It's curious. And curiosity invites conversation. Sometimes we assume the worst. They don't care. They're selfish. They've forgotten how much we mean to them. But what if the truth is something smaller and more human? Maybe they've felt tension and didn't know how to bring it up. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they thought you wanted space. Asking with openness instead of assumption can be the start of a healing conversation you never thought would happen. And here's the flip side. Something to avoid saying, I guess I don't matter to you anymore. Now I know. That might feel like the honest truth in the moment. But it's a sentence loaded with pain and framed like a weapon. It shuts the door instead of cracking it open. It almost dares the other person to disagree, but not lovingly. And if someone's already feeling unsure, it might make them retreat further rather than step in to understand. Let me tell you about Gloria, who felt invisible every time her son came to town and didn't stop by. For years, she waited for him to notice. Then, one day, instead of lashing out, she simply said, I miss seeing your face. I know life's full, but seeing you reminds me that I still matter. That landed differently than an accusation. It touched his heart instead of triggering guilt. And the next time he came to town, he brought dinner and a bouquet of her favorite flowers. Because sometimes all someone needs is a reminder, not a reprimand. There's another approach you might find helpful when trying to reconnect after feeling left out. And it's this. Would it be okay if I made a suggestion? Now, this one's subtle, but important. It gives your family a sense of choice. You're not barging in. You're knocking on the door. Maybe you want to be part of the next family gathering. Maybe you want to offer an idea for a new tradition. Maybe you just want to be considered. By asking permission to suggest, you're showing respect, and at the same time, asking to be respected. And here's what you want to avoid in the same situation. You never let me do anything anymore. That sentence, while possibly rooted in truth, has the flavor of defeat and accusation. It's easy to shut down in the face of never and always. Those extremes don't give people room to grow. They trap them in defensiveness. One thing I often remind friends and clients is this. You can't guilt someone into loving you better, but you can invite them into a deeper kind of love, with kindness, clarity, and yes, boundaries too. Now here's where things get especially personal. If you've been feeling left out for a long time, there might come a point where you need to give voice to your limits. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. This is when it's helpful to say something like, I've been feeling hurt, and I need to be honest about what I can and can't keep carrying alone. This isn't about demanding attention, it's about saying, I've tried to stay quiet, but it's weighing on me now. It tells your family that this isn't a one-time disappointment. It's a pattern, and you're naming it with love, not blame, because naming the hurt is the first step to healing it. I remember hearing from a gentleman named Ron who told his daughter, when I'm not included, I feel like I'm slowly being erased. I don't want to be dramatic, but I do want to be remembered while I'm still here. That line? It changed everything for them. Why? Because he didn't accuse. He didn't shame. He just told the truth about how it felt. And the people who loved him realized they'd been asleep at the wheel of connection. and they woke up. That's the real power of our words. Not to control others, but to call them back to our hearts. So if you've ever found yourself staring at a silent phone, watching photos from a party you weren't invited to, or hearing about plans after they've already happened, please hear this. You matter. Even if they forget for a while, you matter. And how you speak into that silence can be the difference between deepening the divide or building a bridge. Let's keep walking forward, because even when you feel left out, you are never truly alone. Let's keep going. Because if you're still here with me, then this topic is touching something real. And that matters. That means you're ready to speak, not to argue, not to win, but to truly be seen and heard. And that starts with the next step. Sometimes, the pain of being left out grows because we keep hoping they'll notice on their own. We wait. We drop hints. We pretend we're fine when we're not. But the longer we stay silent, the heavier it becomes. So here's something else you can say that gently opens the door to healing. I'd really love to be part of this next time, if you'd have me. Now, let's break that down for a second. That phrase holds two powerful energies: invitation and humility. You're expressing a clear desire, but you're doing it without force. You're letting them know that your presence is not something to be taken for granted, but also not something you're demanding. It's incredibly disarming. I once met a woman named Celia who used this exact phrase when her daughter hosted a baby shower that she wasn't invited to, only found out through photos on social media. She was devastated. But when she finally sat down with her daughter, she didn't come in with anger. She said, "I'd love to be part of these moments, if you'd have me." That softened her daughter's heart in a way anger never could. And now, she's part of everything. But here's what Celia didn't say. What many of us might feel tempted to say when we're hurt: "Don't bother including me anymore." That sounds strong. It sounds final. But it's not strength. It's hurt wearing armor. And it slams the door shut. Once those words are out there, it becomes a lot harder for someone to reach back out, even if they want to. The truth is, the people who love you don't always know how to love you well. They don't always understand how deep your silence runs. Sometimes they assume that you're okay because you always seem to be. But that doesn't mean they don't care. It just means they need help seeing it from your side. And that's what your words can do. They can become a light in a dark room, a bridge where a wall once stood. Here's another simple but powerful thing you can say when you're feeling forgotten. I know everyone's busy, but hearing from you would really brighten my day. That's not needy. That's honest. And it offers an opening without pressure. Sometimes, younger generations get caught up in their own whirlwind of life. They assume that no news means you're fine. This gentle nudge reminds them that connection isn't just a luxury, it's a need. And what do we want to avoid here? You only call when you want something. Even if that's how it feels, even if it's been true in the past, that kind of statement cuts deep. It suggests manipulation, not love. And it's hard to rebuild connection when someone feels accused of using you. Instead, remind them of who you are to them. Remind them of the memories, the shared laughs, the care you've poured into their lives. Speak from that place. Because that's the thread you want to pick back up. Not the bitterness, but the bond. And finally, if the ache has been building for years, if you've swallowed it over holidays and birthdays and Sunday afternoons that were too quiet, then maybe it's time to say this: I'm still here, and I still want to matter. That line may be simple, but it's mighty. It's not a plea. It's not a guilt trip. It's a reminder. A statement of value. A declaration that you're not done yet, that your presence is not optional. It's a gift. And sometimes, people just need to be reminded of that. One of the most powerful conversations I ever witnessed was between a grandfather and his grandson. The grandfather felt forgotten, pushed aside. And the grandson? He had no idea. He thought his grandfather was happier alone. When they finally talked, the old man said, "I'm still here, and I still want to matter." The grandson cried, because for the first time, he realized what his silence had cost. We live in a time when people are more connected than ever, and yet so many of us feel more alone than ever. And that's especially true for those of us over 60. The world moves fast, priorities shift, and sometimes it feels like we're watching life through a window instead of being invited inside. But here's the good news. You don't have to wait for the invitation. You can knock. You can speak. You can reach out. Not with blame, but with belief. Belief that your voice matters. Belief that your family still needs you, even if they've forgotten how much. And if they don't respond? If they stay silent? That doesn't mean your voice was wrong. It means your courage is still intact. And that matters. Keep talking. Keep reaching. Not out of desperation, but out of love. For them. For yourself. For the legacy of connection that still deserves to be written. You are not invisible. You are not forgotten. You are part of the story, and you still get to turn the page. There's something sacred about speaking up for yourself after being overlooked for so long. And if you've stayed with me through this entire conversation, then I want to pause here for a second. Not to give you advice, not to teach you anything, but just to say this. I see you. I really do. Now, let's talk about the last thing you might say. The one that ties all the others together when you're feeling left out by family. It's perhaps the most vulnerable, but also the most freeing. I miss being close. Can we try again? It's simple, almost childlike, and maybe that's what makes it so powerful. Because it doesn't hide behind pride or pain. It doesn't carry blame or accusation. It's just a pure expression of longing. And longing is nothing to be ashamed of. You might be thinking, but what if they say no? That fear is real, and it's fair. Reaching out always comes with the risk of rejection. But let me offer you something else to hold on to. If you don't ask, the answer will always be no. Silence guarantees distance. But vulnerability creates a door. I knew a man named Harold. He was 74, lived alone after his wife passed. His kids stopped coming around after some disagreements years earlier. One day he mailed them a letter that simply said, "I miss being close. Can we try again?" That was it. No lectures, no guilt, just hope. His daughter called him a week later, then his son. The conversations weren't perfect, but they began. And beginning again is sometimes the bravest thing we can do. What Harold didn't say, and what you should try to avoid saying, is this: "You'll miss me when I'm gone." That line might sound dramatic, but it comes from a place of real hurt. Still, when we say things like that, we're using fear instead of love to make a point. And fear might get someone's attention, but love is what brings them back for good. So, if you've been sitting in silence, feeling left out, feeling like birthdays pass without calls, like photos get posted without your face in them, I want you to ask yourself gently, what do I really want from them? Is it revenge? Or is it reconnection? Most of the time, the answer is reconnection. We want to laugh again, to be thought of again, to feel like our name still belongs in the group chat, the plans, the memories still being made. And the good news? It's not too late. Not even close. I know there are some of you listening who feel like your chance came and went. Maybe your son lives states away and never calls. Maybe your daughter is raising kids of her own and seems to have forgotten what you gave up for her. Maybe the grandkids don't know you like you thought they would. That can break your heart. But even a cracked heart can beat again. You don't need grand gestures. You don't need to guilt anyone into remembering you. What you need, what you already have, is your voice. And it's more powerful than you think. Say something kind. Say something honest. Say something hopeful, even when it feels like they don't deserve it. Because when you speak with love, you lead by example. And that example may be what they needed all along to remember who you really are. Not just their parent, their grandparent, but a whole person with feelings and dreams and value that never expired. Let me leave you with this. You matter. Your presence matters. Your words matter. And the relationships in your life? They're still alive. Maybe quiet, maybe distant. But not gone. Not if you're still willing to show up with an open heart. And if they still don't respond, then it's not your failure. It's their missed opportunity. But you? You get to keep growing, loving and connecting with others who see your worth. Maybe it's a neighbor. Maybe it's a new friend. Maybe it's someone right here in this community. Don't let one closed door convince you you're locked out of love forever. You've got more to give, more to receive, and more beautiful days ahead. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this conversation touched something inside you, share your thoughts in the comments. You never know who else might feel seen because of your story. And if you haven't yet, please like this video and subscribe for more gentle, honest conversations just like this. Here's to being remembered, included, and deeply valued at every age. Here's to living your best life, no matter what.